everyone, welcome to 12Petals Fireside Chat. And today we'll be talking about things related to the audition interview process. And we have three amazing musicians and people with us, Warren, Kyle, and Rachel. Thank you for joining us. And so Warren Hagerty is the principal cellist of Pacific Symphony and an avid chamber musician. He's the founding cellist of the Verona Quartet. As a member of the quartet, he was awarded top prizes in international chamber music competitions. On 4 continents. Warren has performed at many of the world's most renowned venues, such as Carnegie Hall, Wigmore Hall, Tully Hall, and Kennedy Center and the Sydney Opera House. Warren holds degrees from the Juilliard School and the Indiana University Jacobs School of Music. And his primary mentors have included members of the Juilliard String Quartet, Pacifica Quartet, Kim and Sharon Robinson. Thank you for joining us, Warren.
Thank you, Christina. Glad to be here.
And Rachel is a native of Taiwan, and she's the appointed assistant principal cello of the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra. Her recognitions include top honors in the International Johannes Brahms competition, the first prize winner of the Eastern Connecticut Symphony Orchestra Instrumental Competition, and many more. Rachel has performed in renowned venues such as Carnegie Hall, Boston Symphony Hall, Vienna Concert House, Suntory Hall in Japan, and National Concert Hall in Taiwan. As an enthusiast for chamber music, she frequently performs with musicians from the New Asia Chamber Music Society. Thank you for joining us, Rachel.
Thank you.
And Kyle previously served as the assistant principal bass of the Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra. He has performed with the Minnesota Orchestra, Indianapolis Symphony, Alabama Symphony, Charlotte Symphony, as well as being previously a fellow at the New World Symphony. He has received his degrees from University of Oregon and the Jacobs School of Music at Indiana University. He also performed at the Verbier Music Festival, Aspen Music Festival, and the New York String Seminar, among many others. And Kyle will be starting his new bass section position with the Minnesota Orchestra in the fall of 2022. So thank you for joining us, Kyle.
Thank you.
Okay, so I would love for us to, go back in time, when I'm very curious to know when did this determination, for the orchestral path or chamber music start developing, like which experiences did you have that really, solidified that drive? Because in our industry, music and this path forward is so full of rejections and disappointments. So I'm really curious how you guys have navigated that and where. Just bring us back to that. Anyone can start. You can just pass the mic around. Yeah, Warren, would you like to start?
Sure. Yeah, I can start off. I think speaking of the determination for an orchestra career, I think that sort of started within me, like maybe pretty early on in my cello playing days. I was in orchestras starting from maybe age like 8 or 9 onwards, and I always really loved it. Later on, I was also in the Verona Quartet. We had degrees together at Indiana University, Juilliard, and that was another career path of mine, and I really loved that. And honestly, I didn't actually see quartet as a viable career for a long time. I didn't even know that was a thing people did for a while. And I was in that group for about 5 years or so. And now I'm principal cellist with the Pacific Symphony. And I don't think I would have been able to win that audition if not for my experience as a chamber musician. Although obviously the audition process is very, very different from being in a chamber group. The skills you gain as a chamber musician of just musicality and listening and knowledge of music that you have to have as a chamber musician, both helped me in the audition process, and even more so once I actually started with the orchestra. Just thinking of it as chamber music on a larger scale, I think has really helped me, especially in a principal role. So I guess the short answer was orchestra has always been on my mind for a long time. Chamber music came a bit later, but they're very intertwined in my experience, and I've really loved both of them.
I think we can unpack a little more about your journey with Verona and yeah, thank you for sharing that. How about Kyle?
Yeah, so I was a bit of a late bloomer on the whole orchestral music scene. I'd always played in bands and stuff when I was in high school, but I mainly thought I was going to go into sports like a fool. But I didn't, which ended up being a good thing because I played football and I would have had way too many head injuries. But yeah, I think the specific moment that kind of hit it for me was when I was a junior, in between my junior and senior year at University of Oregon. I went to a Brevard Music Festival in North Carolina, and that was the first time I'd ever really gotten to play with a the BMCO, the Brevard Music Center Orchestra, is the combination of the faculty and the college students who go there. And that was the first time I'd ever really gotten to play with pros. And I was like, oh, that's how this sounds when it's not bad. That's awesome. And I got really excited about it. I mean, I'm as a bassist, I love playing chamber music, but the opportunity doesn't come as frequently. So, you know, it's kind of like go the orchestral route. But I have to piggyback. Those skills that Warren was talking about with chamber music and listening, that's everything. We even in our bass auditions up here in Calgary, we've been asking for chamber music rounds in the final rounds of the auditions recently, and it's been very helpful in finding out who, you know, doesn't just play the excerpts well, but who actually like plays together well. So just wanted to add on to that point that Warren made.
Can I ask a quick question, Kyle? Because I've been thinking about this for my own orchestra. We don't have chamber music rounds, but also our auditions are entirely blind up until the end. Do you guys do those chamber music rounds with the screen up somehow, or I would assume not, right?
Yeah, no, I think the in Calgary the screen comes down usually for the final round. And that so everyone can see. But I would say if it's in that situation, probably I was on a trial for my Calgary audition as well, and we had a chamber music portion of the trial actually. So then it wouldn't have to be blind, and it would still be a good way to find out who can really, because you can tell who can kind of play in the section, but then you can really know who can play in a group in that scenario.
Right. Thanks.
Thank you. How about Rachel?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so how I started auditioning was because so I came to the States when I was 18 years old, and before that I was in Taiwan. And every summer during my study at school, I go to music festivals. So I just realized that I really enjoying playing with other musicians and just the satisfaction and the feeling of playing with other people, that really makes me, I really love that. So there was the last summer I went to Verbier Festival. Actually, it was in 2017, and um, the there was one conductor who cannot come. So actually Simon Rattle stepped in because he happened to be there. He visited his wife there, and then we play a Beethoven 5 symphony. And then I just like cried after the performance. It was like so inspiring and touching. And everyone was like hugging each other, and we just all cried. So at that moment, I was really like thinking of, if I can make music with that many people, and we all have the same goal, and we can all bring that unify pretty sound to the audience and express. And yeah, I just really love that. So after that, I just started taking auditions. Yeah.
Oh, well, I got goosebumps when you mentioned that. That's really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that fire and that just respect for the music and the collective seems to be the similar underlying drive for you guys. But there's also a flip side, right? Getting there, getting to that dream, that goal, because in school, in music festivals, it's sort of like a bubble, right? And then once you get that experience, now the real world, the real work starts, right? So I would love to hear um how the audition process was like, um different auditions, all these years that you've been through. It would be great, to even share about which was the most painful one, or or the one that got you even more motivated in some ways. Of course. And there's this thing about being in limbo, right? Like, do you hear back, or um when you can't see where you're going yet, that kind of pain. But yeah, I would love for for us to unpack that. Maybe Rachel, you can go first.
Oh, so the audition process for,
Yeah, so
okay.
maybe like how many auditions did you take before you get to your current positions, and which was the most memorable one for you?
Yeah, I think everyone would relate to how hard it is to prepare for an audition, and just the whole process. It's really difficult. And this is probably my seventh or eighth audition. And I would say at first I really had no idea at all, like it how it takes. And but so I before I won the job, I was at Manhattan School of Music for the orchestra program. And during that time, I was really focusing on the orchestra exits a lot more than before. So before that, I was at NEC, New England Conservatory, and I was like half doing my recitals and half preparing for the auditions. But I realized that didn't really work, because your time just gets spread it, and then you don't have a full commitment to the auditions. So when I went to Manhattan School of Music, I really started to like focus on every details, and there are so many details that you need to work on: the tempo, rhythm, character, color, everything. Like they all matters. So one thing that really helped me a lot was that I have two other cellist friends in the program. They were also taking auditions, so we we actually have this group of cellists, and then we like three of us would do mock auditions together, and we were actually taking the same auditions. We go to the same auditions, and we just play for each other. And I think the execution part on stage is really important, because maybe everyone plays really well in the practice room, but on stage it's another story, because you are playing when you are nervous, and you just the stressful situation, and the whole thing is just nerve-wracking. So I would say playing for your teachers, your friend, and then create the similar kind of situation, that would really help you a lot, because you will be more used to the stressful situation. So that, like, playing with my cellist friends are really helpful, because every time I get really nervous playing for them, because they are so good at cello and they know the pieces so well, and they also give me feedbacks about what I might have not noticed. Yeah, so that was kind of that one thing really helped me a lot.
Which part of the audition process is most draining? Is it the practice part? Is it the traveling part? You know, you have to go to different cities, right?
I think all of them, yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. So
Can I jump in? I think everything Rachel said was great, but I wanted to talk specifically about one thing you mentioned, which was simulating the audition experience and having like mock auditions. It's so important to do that, because the process of auditioning, of flying to a different city or driving to a different city, you know, playing for 5 minutes behind a screen and then maybe leaving, you know, that's like nothing else that we do. And I even find that hard to simulate in a mock audition setting. Like, to me, the best way to simulate that is just to do it. Like, I would advise people, and I tell students in conservatories and colleges as much as I can, just take as many auditions as you can, especially while you're in school, if you can do it while you're in school, so you have that safety blanket, because it's tricky once you're out of school. And like, one of the scariest times of my life was after graduating school and not having a job and taking auditions. Then it felt harder. I wished I had done more auditions while I was still in school. And also, along the same lines of taking a lot of auditions to simulate that experience, I think the more you do, the better, especially if you can try to line some up that are pretty close to each other. When I won the audition for Pacific Symphony, I knew I had a couple of auditions for other orchestras later on that year. So in my mind, I had less pressure on that one individual audition, because I knew that I had a chance to do it again in a few months. Whereas if that was my only audition, I think I would have been a lot more nervous for that and built it up more in my mind. And the last thing I'll say about that was just the first audition I ever took was by far the most nerve-wracking, because I, like Rachel said, you don't really know what that experience is like yet. I felt very prepared. I got there, started playing behind the screen. I don't remember any of it. I just blacked out. I got comments back that my intonation was like everything was out of tune. I don't remember what happened. I'm sure I was playing at like 20% capacity, and I just felt every audition I did after that, I gradually got better and better. So yeah, it sounds simple, but just take as many as you can. That's the best way, I think.
By which audition are you like chill in a cool vibe? Like, how?
I don't know if I quite got to the cool vibe yet, but actually something working on it. Something that's interesting is, like, even without auditions, like if I can get past the first round, then I start playing better and better, because it's just that first round, just getting there. And the first round, there's so many applicants. You're all playing like 5 minutes, and you just traveled there, and like that's like the hardest part for me. So even within an audition, if I can play more and more, I feel better and better about it. But honestly, like every audition got slightly better and better. And the first one, if I could hear a recording of it, I don't think I would want to. Yeah.
Nice, nice. How about Kyle?
So the first the first audition I took, I think I advanced through sheer ignorance, because I was just like, oh, I'm just going here to doop doop doop, and I didn't think too hard, and that was good. And then I started thinking as soon as I advanced, and then it all went downhill from there. But yeah, no, for me, I have a lot of physical manifestations of performance anxiety. The main one is I can't feel my arms, which is an issue for bass playing. Seeing as I know, starting a strokey excerpt, like I don't know what's happening, is kind of tricky and sketchy. But yeah, for me, it was just kind of figuring out my process, like what's the good amount of time before the audition that I need to prepare, so I've prepared enough, but also so that I don't over prepare and start like stalling out. Because one of the things that people talk about is like peaking in your performance, like in sports psychology and whatnot. And I like to weightlift a lot, and I've been doing this, like some powerlifting programs recently, and it's definitely designed on like a 10-week, like going towards that goal to where you're peaking on that week 10. And so that's similar. It's a similar approach that I take with auditioning. And so I usually do about an 8-week setup. And so the first thing that happened was I got my preparation in order, my process pre-audition in order. But then I was finding that I was getting exceedingly nervous in the warm-up room of the auditions. Like that's when things started going on. Not even when I was out there, not like I would get there, get to the warm-up room, and I would start just like going wild in the brain about what I was about to do. And one of the things, the final straw for me was I was auditioning at Oregon, and I'm from Portland, Oregon. So it's like, hometown audition. I'm like, really want this. And then I played horribly. It's the only time I've ever been cut off in an audition, and I deserve to be cut off. So they made the right decision. But after that, it was like, I knew that it was because I kept getting so nervous in the warm-up room that my nerves were already through the roof before I even get out in front of the screen. So I was thinking, like, what do I do? And then I thought about, I played a lot of basketball when I was young. And I think the thing in basketball that's most closely related to an audition is like a free throw. You're just shooting a hoop in front of everyone. And I remembered, I was like, oh yeah, a lot of people have little routines they do before they shoot that shot. It's like a really specific thing they do every time. And so I started thinking of what I could do in that warm-up room scenario, to where I would set myself up for success for the audition. And as soon as I did that, literally like the next audition was Calgary, and I put that into practice, and it worked out. And I think the reason that it worked out is because I was still like nervous and whatnot during the audition, and still had the arm thing that went on. But during the warm-up room time, I was accomplishing little tasks, because I've got a little routine that I do. And every time I finished that routine, I was like, all right, that thing's done. Cool. And I wasn't thinking about doing the audition. I was thinking about, all right, now I do this, and now I do this, and now knock, 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 it's your time. All right, cool, let's go. And so that helped. And and during that whole time, and that was when I was at New World, I had a lot of opportunities to play for a lot of people. During there, it was just super easy because everyone's always at the building there. The interesting part was starting to audition again while having a job, and trying to figure that aspect of things out, especially when you have doubles and you've already played 5 hours that day of just like, you know, some Beethoven for 5 hours. You're just like, I don't know if I ever want to play the bass again. But you know, you got to do it. And you know, playing for people is a little trickier. There's still people who like are down to listen at all times. So people have families and people have other things that they do. They don't really want to listen to you practice bass excerpts. So I started doing a couple things. One is I got a group of friends from all around, and we would just like text each other our audition recordings. Be like, hey, can you send me a list based off of this? And then we'll just do it. And then the other thing I did, which I would highly recommend, is I would like wake up and then record like the list without like even drinking some water first. I'd just like absolutely the worst scenario possible, just to see what my floor was. And I would do that every once in a while, because auditions aren't really about the ceiling. It's about how high you can get your floor. So it's just like, even if everything goes wrong, it's still going to be really good. So yeah, but yeah, those that's kind of how it went for me in that regard.
Yeah, I love how you know you're drawing parallels with sports and your music career, which is a huge part of your life, right? And I think you know, all of us do find that kind of like inspiration as well from other parts, and that's something I'm curious about too. Like apart from, you know, the regular music and art, what else inspires you, that really helps you in your music making as well?
Well, I'll jump in on that one, I guess. So yeah, I'm very lucky to live where I do right now in terms of the natural beauty. I'm like an hour and a half away from Banff, so I can just go there pretty casually, be like, oh, that's really nice. And and that's I would say that's one of the, I mean, you know, like a lot of the great composers, they drew their inspiration from being in the outdoors. And it's kind of nice to, you know, go to the outdoors and just kind of think in that kind of process, in that kind of way. And then, I mean, I guess experiences, just like drawing on past experiences, that outside of musical experiences, but like things that have made you super happy or super down, or any adjective you want to use, and just like kind of trying to figure out how to best present that emotion that you felt that one time on the instrument is kind of an interesting thing if you pull it off. I'm not super successful at that, I don't think, but I'm trying to get there.
About Warren?
I can piggyback on the sports thing a little bit, except for I don't play sports anymore, just watch them. I thought your free throw analogy was interesting, because I always wonder how, and I see a lot of parallels between like someone shooting a high pressure free throw and really overthinking it and missing in a high pressure situation versus the same thing about playing an instrument. And I think in that situation also it might be about getting your floor higher versus your ceiling, where your ceiling is. I thought that was a really good analogy that you brought up. Just like how many free throws can you make when you're in the worst possible situation, mentally and physically? That's really interesting. In terms of other inspiration, I think relating to like playing your best in auditions or in any setting.
Yeah. And
oh, sorry, what were you gonna say?
oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, something I thought of, it's not really an outside source so much, but I think it helps me sometimes if I'm doing an audition or a concert where we're really focusing on one piece of music, for a long period of time. It can be really easy to kind of micromanage things and kind of lose the sense of inspiration for that particular piece. So one thing I really like to do is listen to different pieces by the same composer in a very similar style, and maybe even play pieces like that. Like for instance, I don't know, if I was having to play the famous cello excerpt, like the beginning of second movement of Brahms 2, I might even warm up with the slow movement of Brahms 3 instead, or something from a Brahms cello sonata, just to get the kind of the sound world of the same composer and kind of get out of that micromanagey frame of mind and just into like the language of the composer, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you. How about Rachel?
So I thought of what my teacher told me a long time ago, like about, because I like to eat. And so he was saying that imagine you, like he asked me what's your favorite food, like yeah, and you must have like a favorite restaurant that you want to go every time, and then you go to this restaurant and you order your favorite food, and then you already know how it tastes already, and then you know exactly what you know exactly how the taste is. And then one day you went there, you go there and it just doesn't taste the same. It like there's like something missing. So it's like that this story I was like comparing to, he was telling me it's just like you're playing. You have to imagine the best, or what you the sound you want first, and then you have that sound in your ear first, and then when you play, you have to know the difference between your sound in your ear and what you are producing, and it's that missing part, like how you can fix to get there. So I really like this like eating eating so because I love eating too. So every time when I go to a restaurant, and I would think of this story. But it's part of my inspiration that every dish I have, and then I think of how it tastes like, and then how did they make it so delicious. And it's just like our playing, like how we can make it pretty, and then make the audience like express ourselves to the audience.
Yeah, I mean, what you guys have shared, because I think the inspirations and seems like having support from your friends during the audition process, simulating all those mock audition experiences, that genuine connection with your friends, to have that support during the process, and things that keep you going. I think those are things that some might get lost in the process of achieving certain goals, because it's so laser focused, right? And how do you not burn out in in the process? How do you find different things that just empowers yourself? So I do want to with regards to this, fixed mindset that could develop because of the nature of our industry. Like, everyone's practicing 8-10 hours a day during school time, building that craft, to get to where you guys are. What do you think is what do you think um, is sort of like missing from the school's education systems, or things that did not prepare you for the real world when the audition process started? And like Warren, especially you started the quartet at school, right? And yeah, that professional path, I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah.
Something that's lacking that you felt, moving forward, what schools can do better.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, I had a very good experience in all of my music studies in school. Of course, there's always room for improvement. And I guess I always felt that, there could be more of a focus on what it's like, when you graduate school and you're out there looking for work in the first year or two after school. That's always a pretty tricky time, which is why I mentioned earlier about trying to take auditions while you're still in school. In terms of the chamber music path and the Verona Quartet, that was not only a great experience musically for me, but also just in terms of it really functioned like a small business. Especially at the very beginning, we were like a startup company. We had to do all of our own really marketing, advertising, ran our own rehearsals, and we were rehearsing like 6 hours a day, kind of everything you're putting together yourself. And that, I think that takes a lot of experience in areas that are not just about playing your instrument, and about how to endorse yourself. And so that experience was good, both musically, and it helped me, I think, when I got out, like just for my personal timeline, when the quartet was at Juilliard in the second year, right when that year ended is when I left the group, and I had about 2 years or so between then and when I won the Pacific Symphony audition, which I mentioned before was a pretty scary time. But I think the skills from quartet, at least on the business side, helped me to find work and find revenue sources to keep myself afloat, like a lot to do with like teaching positions, applying for other jobs while I was taking auditions. And I don't think I would have had that if it weren't for that quartet experience. And then musically speaking, as you can imagine, it helps so much with auditions. I know that it's easy to see how being in a serious chamber ensemble helps once you're in the orchestra, but doing the auditions themselves, having that chamber music mindset is really important, even though it can seem kind of separate, chamber music versus playing excerpts behind a screen. But I can speak now more so that when I'm behind the screen and listening to auditions, I can hear someone's musicality very clearly. I can hear when someone is playing with the knowledge of what else is going on in the orchestra around the excerpt. And I can hear when someone is playing an excerpt just abstractly without any knowledge of what else is going on. And that's where I think the chamber music and the fine-tuned listening skills really come into play. So I'm probably asking a lot when I say this, but when you're in college, take auditions, but also if you can find a group of musicians that are serious about chamber music, it's really, really, really worth it. It was wonderful.
When what made you decide to take on a different path, like leave the quartet and go on to the orchestral journey?
I think it was mostly the quartet lifestyle. I mean, it's a great career, but it's pretty exhausting. I mean, you were rehearsing all the time, like 6 hours a day, and we had a good career going. You're traveling a lot. That gets pretty taxing, but I do think it's really worth it. And like like I said, the musical and business experience that I got from it, I would not trade that for anything. So I'd really recommend it. Yeah.
Nice. How about Kyle?
I guess in terms of like what I felt like, what I was surprised about getting out of school. Well, one of the things is when you're playing a new concert like every week, right? That's something that school orchestras don't always set you up for, just like the really quick preparation period that you have to have. Because I remember at IU, it'd have like maybe 4 or 5 concerts a semester, and now I'm doing 4 or 5 concerts a month. And the time frame for the quality of preparation is pretty. Yeah, it was a pretty big jump. I was lucky that I had the New World like buffer period in between where I got to be like, oh yeah, this is actually it. All right, cool, let's go. Honestly, I worked better in that situation because I didn't get really bored with playing the same thing like 9 times before playing it once. So maybe that was good for me. Yeah, I think it's exactly, it's getting more business sense. Even if like for me, just going kind of straight into the orchestra world, it would still be cool to have a better sense of how to build your own brand, and especially if you're building your own brand from having a job per se. That's pretty cool because you already automatically have that that expertise, that resume that looks real nice. I think one of the main things though is it's pretty easy, I think, to get really, really results oriented when it comes to music. Well, really just anything. It's really, really easy to get results oriented. And I've found in my time that the results will come if you're process oriented and you get really into the process of everything, and falling in love with the process, whether that be the audition process or just like your general musical experience. Just always looking to learn, looking to better yourself, having an open mind. It gets really easy to like get super focused on results because you see your friends like, oh, my buddy just won the blah 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 and the blah blah blah, and everyone's like, I'll let's bow down to that my buddy. And that's cool and that's fun, but like, if you want to keep discovering new things musically once you've had the job, then yeah, being in love with the process is really helpful. And because that was it. That was what I was thinking. Once I won an audition and got to an orchestra, and then I was like, okay, wait, what now? Okay, so I just play in the orchestra. Or okay, wait, what? I felt like, oh, did I peak? What? That's too bad. But then it started figuring out more of how to help myself get better at the bass, and more importantly musically, through all the different kinds of things you can do, and keeping an open mind. I think those are the things that are really important that I think music school could be a bit better about, rather than being like, hey, we put this person in that orchestra, haha, come study here.
Yeah, nice. How about Rachel?
Yeah, I think in school, we were all in practice rooms a lot. And I was pretty shy, first of all. And then because of the language, when I first got here, I can understand what people are talking about, but my speaking wasn't that great. So I was just in general, like sitting in practice room all day and then trying to figure out how to play cello better. But it was not until like when I came here to the Indianapolis and Symphony, and then also like I started my YouTube channel last year. So I like started to be more outgoing, because before it was very like I don't know, a little like close up. But because of YouTube channel, I need to like start talking and then thinking about what should I talk and how should I talk, and just to, you know, have a conversation with people. And then I just actually, it really helps me a lot to open up myself and then get to know more people. And once you talk to more people, you know their culture, you know different personality. And I think it also helps your music too, because you reach out more people, and then you have more I don't know, possibility of knowing other stuff. So I think in school I was a little like, maybe they could have, I don't know, more opportunity, or like more like what Warren said about the business part, that is to maybe, I don't know, create opportunities for you to maybe open up yourself and talk to people more and try to build your own brand. That I think it would really help once you like get out of school. That would really help you to, yeah, to have everything, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with fully with that, you know, because most students basically go into conservatory or music school, and the headspace you have is just honing your craft, right? But then once you zone in on that and you sort of like forget about the other parts of the world, it's like once you get out of the world, how do you you know, the idea of selling ourselves, it's strange because we love to perform, right? That is part of what we do, but then the technical part of actually branding and selling ourselves is, it's usually kind of like frowned upon, or like I don't know how to bridge that. But I think if, like what Warren said, you know, if everyone's, and you guys just mentioned, just be more open-minded about receiving, then you can give more. And now that you guys, you know, are on the, you know, on the other side, you know, you're listening to auditions, right? And since pre-COVID and right now, so many things have changed. What do you guys think are the true qualities, you know, that's really important for the younger generations to think about, to have a more self-sustaining journey? And what do you guys here listen out for, you know, other than the usual, you know, you have to get your chops ready in this post COVID situation? Has anything changed for you guys, or because I'm not in the orchestral scene, so I think a lot of people would have questions about that too. Like, what is it that really shines through different auditions for you guys now that you're on the other side?
I can, this is like a slightly different direction at first, but it's related, I promised. So in terms of what Rachel was talking about like really making connections with people, that's a part of the audition process too, because the audition is not just behind the screen. You also have either your trial period or your tenure period, or however that works for every orchestra. And a big part of that is how do you get along with your stand partner, with your colleagues, and how do you play along with them? Like that's actually technically part of the audition process too. So you do have to develop those skills at some point of just, and it's not even, I almost wouldn't even say it's a skill. It's just, you know, relating to people on a personal level and just, you know, being a good colleague. That's, you know, if someone plays a perfect audition and then comes into the section as a complete jerk, they wouldn't pass that process. So yeah, thanks, Kyle. So that's a big thing that, you know, I think every orchestra looks for. You can't exactly hear it behind a screen, but you find out sooner or later.
Kyle?
Yeah, I can't stress enough the importance of what Warren just said. The being a good colleague is, you know, it's almost like more important than the musical skill. Because I mean, especially whoever is gonna get that position is gonna be, who's ever in the finals for that audition is highly qualified for that position. And arguably a lot of people who didn't make it out of prelims are highly qualified for that position. That is one of the things. There's a huge surplus of talent for the demand of the positions going around. Except for in the bass, everyone's retiring at the same time right now for some reason. But yeah, being a good colleague, and it doesn't mean you have to like go out for drinks with all of the section all the time and, you know, always be the life of the party, but you know, just be kind, be prepared, be engaged, and you know, read the room, I guess, is the best advice. And just you know, it's easier to it's easier to get past those periods of where you're still in your probationary things if the group likes you as a person. So that's helpful to practice your social skills, which is really good to say after everyone was inside for 2 years in a pandemic. I definitely got worse at my social skills in the past few years. So
Same.
You know, maybe that's something I need to work on. But yeah, I guess what I'm listening to behind the screen especially is outside of the basic stuff, you know, the good sound, good intonation, good rhythm, it is really is this person, do they sound like they're in the orchestra already? You know, do they sound like they're just playing the part while listening to it on their headphones, right? It's like they're just like, oh yeah, we're just jamming. Hopefully they're not actually doing that, because you can't do that. But you know what I mean. It's just like they just fit in that. They fit in that sound concept. And so honestly, I usually like looking for people who, you know, there's an audition box that you kind of have to fit in, right? There are certain things you can and can't do in the audition process. I like it to hear people who are like bursting the box's seams. If there was any more that they could put in the box would explode, but it still somehow fits in the box. That's what I like to hear. Someone who, you know, doesn't like do something and you're just like, okay, that makes zero sense. It's cool musically, but it just like would not work in context whatsoever. But also someone who is really going for it, someone who's really trying. And you know, everyone on that side of the screen understands nerves are a thing, so that will probably enter into the picture. But you know, if you hear someone who's just like really going for it and really doing well, you can excuse a slip up here and there. But if like all you're bringing to the table is just like, I'm technically good, and then you mess up, then whoops, there goes your thing. So yeah, it's just being a musician rather than, in my case, a bass player or, you know, a cellist. Being a musician is, I think, the name of the game.
Mm. Mm. Thank you. Rachel?
Yeah, I totally agree what Kyle and Lauren said. And I would say just be sincere to either to music or your colleagues. Because I mean, sometimes you can tell from their music if they are sincere or not. just yeah, I think this is really important that you just because in the audition process sometimes you will miss a note or the intonation wouldn't be that good, but if you believe in what you are doing and you focus on what to deliver to the committees, then I think, yeah, I mean, no one's perfect. So yeah, just be sincere to anything, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's a that human aspect. I think it's universal, right? Through regardless of what industries we're in, and I think, I mean, quite a lot of our listeners are actually non musicians, and I think and these there's really not much difference, segregation with what everyone's doing, and I think, you know, you guys have been through huge mental resilience training in your lives to get to where you are, and you know, it shines through in your personality, to continue to be open-minded and receptive, and you guys are still learning, and you guys are still progressing, working on everything, and I think that's really really humbling and inspiring to hear. um and I was also wondering, maybe before we wrap it up, for you guys, um is there a mentor figure in your life, that gave you some really good advice, apart from some of the stuff that you've mentioned, that really you keep it really close to your heart, um, that continues to guide you, um, in any ways that you can share with us?
I can just a quick quote from one of my teachers at Indiana, Eric Kim. I asked him one of my lessons. I felt like my preparation was going very well, but when I got on stage, I would lose confidence and not play 100%. And I asked him if he had advice for how to deal with that, and he told me to fake it till you make it. And to elaborate on that a little bit, it means to, even if you're not feeling confident, if you can get yourself to project confidence, and like even like within your body language and how you sit, how you play, just like, it sounds kind of simple, but if you like fake confidence, then the confidence will follow. I've found, like, it kind of goes along with what my fellow panelists were saying about going for it. You know, I'd rather hear in an audition, I'd rather hear someone completely go for a shift and miss it than be really careful and hit the shift. So I think that kind of advice has always stayed with me.
Thank you for that, Kyle.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of, I definitely, I feel like I'm a very good example of the whole "it takes a village" adage. I've been very lucky throughout my life to have really solid, good people, good adult figures, and then good friends as I become, an adult, to help me through hard times, help me keep my brain going well. Yeah, but I mean, I think I'm lucky in that my dad is he's not a musician at all, but he actually has a stupidly good ear, which is frustrating when you're 17 and you play out a tune and he's like, "Why did that sound bad?" And then, but I was like, and then outside of why did that sound bad, it's not like he really knows what's going on. But he was very good at pushing and keeping me honest with myself, but not like being a tiger parent, not like really not ruining it for me. So it was I thought it was good for me because I usually thrive in a bit more of a, I guess, competitive environment, but that I don't know if that's the right word. I'm just a very competitive person, but in an audition, you're not really competing with anyone. It's more of like you're competing. It's not, you can't go out on stage and just like play defense on someone who's taking an audition. That would be frowned upon. So I recommend not doing that. But yeah, no, it's just, I guess it was more of just drawing that competitiveness into like being more, just pushing myself farther rather than trying to push others back, So I guess that was one thing. One of the mentor things.
Thank you. Rachel?
Yeah, I think of my teacher in Juilliard, actually, Team 80. He's a very warm person, and I remember my first year doing my master there. Like I something happened to me, and I was like I wasn't able to like practice cello for maybe a month because it was so huge, such an impact on me, and then I was like really down for like the whole month. And then he just told me that he's not only my teacher, but also my friend and mentor. So I can tell him everything I want. And he also told me that, like, you don't need to be afraid, because like when you are feeling really down, because next time you'll get even happier because your emotion range would expand so much. So just experience what you are feeling right now. And also in music, you don't have to be, you don't need to be afraid of anything, because sometimes if you are talking to other people, you might need to be like polite, or, you might need to be considerate, or like what you said might offend someone else. But in music, you don't need to worry anything about that. So you can just be yourself. In music, you can just be yourself totally. So yeah, I would say my teacher really like influenced me a lot, and I still remember every word he said to me, like regarding this, like my my bad times, and also like in music. Yeah. Right.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Yeah. So thank you guys. This is really precious moments that you guys have shared, and I really appreciate this time that we have. And So I think we've come to the end of the chat, and I hope moving forward for you guys, continue to blossom and shine through all these things that you already own truly, and continue to share your amazing music with the community and everywhere. I hope more people in Singapore or in this part of the world would also be able to receive some of this precious experiences that you guys have been through. So thank you for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
We'll meet again for sure. And thank you, Chinyan, for staying. And so have a good night, guys. Bye.
You know,
Bye.
Thank you.
bye.
See you.
Bye.
See you.